Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh, and welcome to The Valiant Show. I'm your host Mohsin Shah, and we are looking at the 10th Imam, Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. First of all, we'd like to congratulate the Imam of our time and also the Muslim Ummah on the miraculous birth of Imam al-Hadi. Asadullah yamakum to you all, and inshallah you guys will be out celebrating, going towards your Husayniyat, your Imam Bargas, you'll be reciting poetry, you'll be listening to the different legacies and fada'il of the Ahlul Bayt, and furthermore indulging in sweets, because it is a time for us to celebrate. Joining me with the celebrations and to look more into the legacy left behind Imam al-Hadi is Sayed Muhammad Rizvi. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Asadullah yamakum, Mubarak to you as well. Allah bless you, inshallah. And if I remember, you're a Naqawi.
Yes, I am, yes.
You are, so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
On the birth of your Imam and your Jad, your great-great-grandfather.
Great, yes.
So, of course, the Naqawis are Naqawis because they are from Imam Naqi al-Hadi alayhi salam.
Fantastic. Sayyidina, before we go into our discussion, could you give us a little brief introduction onto who Imam al-Hadi is? Most of us know him as the grandfather of our 12th Imam, may Allah hasten his reappearance. We know he's buried in Samarra, but we don't know much about his life or where he was born or even the challenges he faced. So just a brief, biography until we go into detail about himself.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So of course, Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam is the son of Imam al-Jawad, and he is the grandson of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. And he's unique in many ways in the sense that he's also one of the youngest Imams to be an Imam. Like Imam Jawad alayhi salam was very young, so was Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. But the only difference was that because the people had already questioned Imam Jawad being so young an Imam, nobody questioned him after that because they were kind of now used to it. You remember when Imam Jawad became an Imam at the young age of 7, 8 or so? No, 5 was Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam.
Yes.
Imam Jawad alayhi salam was around 8, and they had a bit of an issue with that. People were a bit shocked. Even some of the Shia were shocked as well.
Really?
That, yeah. So there were questions,
Why would they be shocked? Is it a case of this person isn't even balugh and he's so young, or was it a case of we thought he'd be more physically strong to protect the Shia, or was it just in general he's just a kid? So how's he going to lead us?
Yeah. So I think the first question that came to mind was, is this child, because he was a child, is he able to lead an ummah? Is he able to lead us in the right direction? Does he have that capability that, for example, his forefathers had? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Imam Hussein, Imam Hassan, Imam Sajjad, and the other Imams. Does he have that in him to lead us? So there was a bit of an issue there. So a lot of people had questions, and so they were answered. And Imam Jawad alayhi salam gave those answers. Al-Ma'mun even brought him to the darbar, to his court. Ask him, question him. The Mufti Yahya ibn Aktham would question Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam in front of all of the grand muftis there. And this young, apparently a child, put them all to shame.
Wow.
And so now what happens is when he dies, because Imam Jawad alayhi salam dies young, 25 years. Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam was in his 40s, early 40s. But yet when he died, Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam was also around the same age, about 9, when he became an Imam. But nobody questioned him.
Okay.
Because they had already seen Imam al-Jawad, and when they had seen his capabilities, and they said, wow, ilm of the Imam has nothing to do with being baligh or bulugh.
Yes.
It is a ilm, Allah gives it in the heart of who He pleases, his wali,
yes,
who's mansoos, who is sent by Him. Allah chooses, like He gave hikmah to Yahya in his young age, like He gave the kitab to Isa alayhi salam, and he spoke in the cradle.
From the cradle, yeah. Correct.
Atani al-kitab wa ja'alani nabiyyah. Allah gave me the book and He made me a nabi, and I am in the cradle. He was in the cradle.
Yes.
So if He can give it to Isa alayhi salam, then He can give it to A'imma alayhimus salatu wasalam as well. And so he is born, of course, just outside of Medina, and it seems that this is where Imam Jawad would keep his other wife, who was the mother of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. Because remember, the other wife was jealous, Fadl, who was the killer of Imam al-Jawad, who ended up poisoning him. She was the daughter of al-Ma'mun, right? Yeah. When Imam returns from Baghdad and he takes al-Fadl back to Medina, he marries again. because the Imam is born through a pure woman.
Yes.
And so he marries a pious, a pure, a woman who becomes the mother of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salatu wasalam. al-Fadl becomes jealous. And because of that, there are issues at home. So what happens, well, historians say it's possible that the Imam kept them separately, a little bit on the outer skirts of Medina. Okay? And this is where Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam was born. And of course, he's born at one of the most difficult times. To keep it brief and short, he's born in the time of, perhaps you could say, some of the most difficult of the Khulafa of Bani Abbas. Al-Mamun, Al-Mu'tasim, Al-Wathiq, Al-Mutawakkil. His longest time is spent alongside Mutawakkil, la'natullahi alayhi. This Mutawakkil, in short, and if we have time we can discuss him later, he was the Yazid of Bani al-Abbas.
Oh. Go into it, go on. I'll give you permission to say it now. Because it links into the question I'm going to ask you, which was, what were the conditions like for Imam al-Hadi doing Samara and under the Abbasid Khalif? Maybe if, because we always see with the Imams, there is a common enemy. You know, with Amir al-Mu'mineen, it was Muawiyah. You know, with Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, it was Muawiyah, and then it was Yazid, and so forth. There's always that one caliph that a villain, you could say.
Yes.
So you're saying with Imam al-Hadi, his main villain that he had to deal with was Mutawakkil.
Mutawakkil, no doubt.
So, briefly, how did Mutawakkil come into power? And then what was the beef between Imam al-Hadi and Mutawakkil?
So, of course, Al-Mutawakkil, Al-Mal'oon was, he came to the seat of caliphate like all others would. They would come after one another. Either a brother would come after a brother or a son would come after a father.
Nepotism.
Yeah. So it was as you know, it wasn't really an Islamic caliphate. It was a kingdomship, like a dynasty. You can say it's a dynasty. So he came after his brother Al-Wathiq. He came to power, and he ruled a fairly long time. If I remember the timeline roughly, maybe around 20 years or so was coinciding with the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. And why was he so tough? For many reasons. He was pure evil, one. Two, he was a drunk, somebody whose nights he would spend in drinking alcoholic parties, basically.
Surprise, surprise.
They say that
common theme with the enemies of Bani Hashim.
Yeah, his alcoholic parties were very famous. That the night would be spent in luxury, in lust, in alcohol. It is said that he had 4,000 maids to himself.
Oh wow!
Yeah, whatever you want to call them, slave maids or women in his castle that were his property. So you could see what kind of lifestyle he was living. And this, unfortunately, is a man who claims to be a Khalifatul Muslimin wa Amirul Mu'mineen.
Oh.
As in, the people would address him as Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. You are the Amir of the believers.
Yes.
And this is what his, and it's just not just him. Al-Ma'mun, Harun, some would say Harun was even worse with these sort of things, because Harun would get the muftis to pass a fatwa for his sake.
Okay.
Yeah, if he wanted to do something and he couldn't do it, pass a fatwa for it, I'll give you...
an envelope.
Well, there was no envelope, it was more of a sack of coins.
Sack of coins, okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a sack of coins, and he would get them. So, he comes to power, straight away, things get really hard for the Shia. He was an open enemy of the Shia, of what they would call the Alawiyin.
Okay.
Remember, the geography is very different. When you read about the early Imams, you read Medina.
Yes.
Right? You read Hijaz. When you read about the latter Imams, you read Iraq, you read Baghdad, you read Samarra, you read Basra, or the other cities, Kadhimain. So, the geography is different, number one. Number two, the rulers are different. The Imams before had Banu Umayyah to deal with.
Yeah.
Now they have Bani al-Abbas.
Yeah.
And number three, Imams are ghuraba in this land. Iraq is not their country.
Yes.
Iraq is not the land of A'immah Ahlul Bayt. The land of A'immah is Hijaz,
Medina.
Makkah and Medina.
Yeah.
So by coming into Iraq, they're already gharib as they are. Whether they be in Samarra, whether they be in Kadhimain. Now what happens was, when he comes into power, he says any Shia take their mal, as in the property would be confiscated and the person would be killed. I'll give you an example.
Wow.
One of the close companions of the Imams, Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, the latter Imams, was Ibn Sikit.
Okay.
He was a adib, a sha'ir, alim, fadil, zahid, yani pure, a pure soul. In the court of Mutawakkil asked him, his two young sons were sitting with him. He says, "You are a Shia, Ibn al-Sikit. These two, my sons, are they better, or are the sons of Ali, Hassan and Hussein better?" Now, of course, he's a Shia. He comes, from a Shia background. He has a love of the Imams. He says to him, "How dare you compare your sons with Hassan and Hussein?
MashaAllah.
You compare them with Hassan, the sons of Ali and the sons of Rasulullah. That servant of Ali Qambar is better than your two sons."
Wow. MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
And that is recorded in history.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, he had his tongue cut out.
Oh,
When he said that, he said, pull his tongue out. Like Maytham al-Tammar
yes.
in Kufa. Yes? So it was the case that whenever that's why I say that, I emphasize that we should narrate the fada'il and maqamat of Ahlul Bayt, because people have given tongues for this.
Yes. Ahsant.
Throughout history, people would, chop your tongue off.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's chopping our tongue off. So we should utilize it to propagate the fadail and the manaqib of al-Muhammad. And so this is Imam Hadi alayhi salam. He begins in Medina, and he is brought to Samarra, and there he eventually would pass. In short, of course, Samarra, as you know, is an army town.
MashaAllah. Now, Samarra has a lot of significance. Number one, we know that it's a garrison town, strong military presence. I'm not sure if it's the capital of the so-called caliphate at the time or so forth. But I do know this, that those in charge know that the Shia have 12 Imams. We're at number 10. If we can try and contain and control, we could finish them off quickly. And, that'll be the end of Shia Islam and so forth. So, what were the conditions and circumstances Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam was under being in Samarra? Why were the Abbasids so strict with his living conditions?
Well, rightfully said, they consider them a threat. In short, any Imam of Ahlul Bayt was considered a threat for the Caliph. Al-Mutawakkil twice had the Imam's house raided.
Okay.
The Imam's homes were raided. You see, that's one of the things you find why people think Bani Umayyah, even though we don't want to make this comparison, who's worse, Bani Umayyah or Bani al-Abbas? They're both just as bad as each other. They both killed A'immah Ahlul Bayt. They both killed the sons of Rasulullah, the progeny of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Yet we find that Bani al-Abbas become a bit impatient. Whereas the early Imams lived longer and were poisoned or killed a little bit towards the latter stage of their lives. The Imams later on, you find they're killed young, you find they're poisoned, you find their homes are raided, right? You find that with Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, his house was raided. You find that with Imam al-Jawad, you find that Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, you find that with Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, especially when they came to raid and find his son. You don't find that so much with the other Imams, right? Of course, Imam Ali alayhi salam's house was attacked as well, Sayyid Zahra's house. But you don't find it with as much consistency as you find with these Imams. So he has the house of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam raided. This Mutawakkil in Medina. And the person who raids the house, he himself narrates this. He says, when I raided the house, there was commotion in Medina. Oh yeah, there was commotion in Medina. This is not an ordinary person. This is the direct descendant of the Prophet. This is the chief of the Hashemites.
Yes.
Sometimes you have in an area where a person is considered like a tribal chief or an elder.
Yeah.
You can't go and touch him.
Yeah.
You can't just go and touch him without going through a barrier, without
Yes.
going through. So there was commotion. He says that commotion, the shouting and commotion was such that I'd never seen it like that. He said I had to come out and I had to take oath to God that I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to see. And he says, this is how I calmed down the people. And then I entered the house of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. And then what did you find in there? Now what would you find in the house of the Imam? What did the people, what the people would tell him? He has weapons in there. He has letters of supporters. He has this, he gets this, He's going to rise up revolt any time now and rebel.
So they're thinking about it as like a political activist, revolutionary. It's similar today, you know.
Similar today, you raid the house of your political opponent,
Yeah.
right? Or you put him on house arrest, or you put him in prison.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. The only difference is when I went into the house of Imam Ali al-Hadi alayhi salam, they found nothing except the Holy Quran.
MashaAllah. Subhanallah.
The second time they raided his house, they found him sitting in the mihrab reading the Quran. The Imam had no such plans. The Imam had no such plan. It was the paranoia of these people. You know, some people are paranoid.
Interesting.
And they just want to get rid of, they want to kill any opposition.
Because we've seen this before. And we've seen the Imam say that if it's political power that you guys want, you can take it. Just let us live and, you know, we'll carry on with our own, you know, duties. You know, we'll look after a mosque or we'll go to a foreign land. Imam Hussein alayhi salam famously said, I'll go to Hind. You know, let me live, let me take my, you know, my people with me and I'll go to Hind and you guys can have the caliphate. I don't want anything to do with it. We don't have these intentions. But still, with the support and because they were on haqq, I guess that was the biggest threat that these people faced.
Absolutely, yeah. Their popularity as well. And their fadail that they didn't have. The ilm that Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam would radiate. Mutawakkil could never even think about that. His adab, his akhlaq. And just that, you know, there's something majestic about the Imams. Something grand about them.
Yeah.
That haybah, that ru'ab that existed within the Imam. That energy that people used to get attracted to them.
Yeah, I've read stuff on high frequencies and aura.
Yes.
You know, some people have that when they walk into a room. People are just magnetically attracted to their presence. They have this aura about them, or they have this energy, this frequency, and so
There is. So this was something. So that reminds me. There was an Egyptian who came into Samarra to meet the Caliph for some reason. And he comes into the court. As you know, the Caliph would have a court where he would sit. They announced that the Alawi is to be killed today. And this Alawi is Ali ibn Muhammad al-Hadi alayhi salam. So I said, who is this? They're going to kill an Alawi. They're preparing to execute an Alawi, and you know who the Shia consider him. He said, I want to see him. So he came from Misr, from Egypt, and he just stood by. He said, let me just see who this is. This is really, it's fascinating. Something interesting.
So this person has come all the way from Egypt just to see of this Ali ibn Muhammad.
No. He came to the Muslim Caliphate for his own affairs.
Business.
For his own business.
Okay.
People will come from far and wide.
Yeah.
For his own affairs, sometimes to meet the Caliph, sometimes for complaints, business, trade, whatever. He came for his own business. And he comes to the court, this huge gathering, commotion. So we are to assassinate Ali al-Hadi today.
So he thought he would stay just to see.
He said, let's see what this is. Who is this? You know. He says, all of a sudden the door opens. People move back. Imam Ali al-Hadi enters on his horse, riding.
MashaAllah.
He says, people move back. He says, when I saw him, just the glance of him, the energy that radiated from him, from his face, the riwayah says, فَوَقَعَ حُبُّهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. The love of him enters his heart. Just by looking at him. And he says, in my heart I pray to Allah, oh Allah, I don't know this man, but he seems to be a pure man. Oh Allah, protect him from the evils of mutawakkil. He says, as I was making this dua in my heart, the Imam passed by me, and as he passed by me, he looked at me and called me by my name, Ya Abdur Rahman. Your dua has been accepted, he won't do nothing.
Wow, subhanallah.
He says, from that day onwards, I became an imami. He came back, he came into Iraq as a Sunni, he returned back as a Shia, as a Shia. So this is that energy that will radiate from them. So they raid his house and they find nothing. But they would make his life difficult. And so they would take him to, you know, there was a journey as well. But when they get to Samarra, to cut it short, they put him on a house arrest and they also put him in prison. Why did they bring him to Samarra? Why not just leave him in Medina?
Yes, important.
Why?
Strategic?
Absolutely.
Tactical?
Strategic, tactical?
Keep your enemies, keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer.
Closer. Ahsant. It's one of the oldest tricks in the books.
Yeah.
You keep them where you can see them.
Surveillance, monitoring.
And remember, back then, it's not like you couldn't like call. You didn't have emails. You didn't have any sort of quick communication. So if something's happening over there, news will not reach you until it's happened.
Obviously.
So this was the way they would keep the imams under their supervision. And so what happened was, the imams would be in home, and the spies would sit around his house.
Okay.
Anyone who's going in would have to go through them. Sometimes they would be allowed entry, sometimes they would be refused entry. And when things were really bad, then the Imam ﷺ was put into prison in Samarra. And people have visited this prison. If you go to Ziyara, Iraq, you can, if you take a detour, some of the groups, they do go and visit some of these prisons that still exist today.
Yeah. It was really, really harsh conditions for the Imam. Obviously, tactics from the Caliph at the time and so forth. So, when Samarra, the Imam is, under house arrest, like you said, the guards are watching. How do people have access to the Imam? How do they have access for spiritual guidance, religious law, and so forth, religious advice? The Imam has a hukam that he wants to give to his Shia. How does the Ummah, the Shia Ummah, still have a connection with the Imam?
So of course it becomes harder. This is not the time of Imam al-Sadiq, where he would have an open university, and Sheikh Mufid says 4,000 students would benefit from the pearls of wisdom that would fall from the holy mouth of the holy Imam. So it definitely is harder. So if you compare the students, Sheikh al-Mufid says 4,000 students for Imam al-Sadiq.
In total or like yearly? In total?
In total.
Okay.
That narrate from him.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a hell of a lot.
Sheikh al-Tusi for Imam Ali al-Hadi says 185 students. Look at the difference.
MashaAllah.
Not even 1,000.
185.
185.
And that's still with really harsh conditions.
That's still with, so it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. The Hadi will always guide. Sometimes it becomes difficult. Sometimes he's not allowed to guide. Like Imam Ali alayhi salam, for 3 consecutive caliphates, he was sidelined. He was made to sit at home. But where he could, he would guide. So what happened is they would set up these wukala.
Okay.
And it was not from the time of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. In fact, it existed from the time of Imam al-Jawad, salamullah alayhi. He had these wukala, these agents in different towns and cities, especially Shia towns.
Okay.
What were some of the Shia towns? Have a guess.
Kufa.
Good. And the Shia town, Shia city.
Medina, arguably.
Medina, not so much.
Not so much. Okay. Kufa would have been one. The south, Yemen.
Yemen, Qom.
Qom. Oh, even at that time.
Yeah.
Qom had a strong Shia presence.
Qom had a Shia strong presence, yes, because remember, this is after Sayyidah Ma'sooma.
Okay. Yes.
This is after Imam Rada.
Imam Rada, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's after.
So,
and when Sayyidah Ma'sooma went there, salamullahi alayhi, she was welcomed by the Shia in that town. So Qom itself, Kufa itself, Basra itself, some places in Yemen, and places in Hijaz and other places in Iraq. Even in Baghdad, outskirts of Baghdad.
Yeah,
you would have
from Imam Hussein Shah and so forth.
So the Imams would have wukala. They wouldn't mention their names. They would be very careful, because to be a wakil of the Imam at that time was to sign your own death certificate.
Yeah, I could imagine.
To sign your life away.
Yeah.
Right? So many of them were in prison, many of them were killed, many of them were missing. But the Imam, through this wukala, would guide the masses, stay connected with the people. And he would entrust these people, as in he would send somebody to, let's say, to a particular city, and he would write a letter. I instill so-and-so as my wakil over you. Refer to him. Ask him the questions. And give your khums to him, he will bring it to me.
Okay.
So Qawm used to send a lot of khums to the Imam. And they used to come through these wukala. And so they would bring their questions, fiqhi, aqidati, in terms of al-fiqh, al-aqidah. They would bring it to the Imam, and the Imam would then answer that to them. Sometimes where it was possible, they would visit the Imam directly in his house, and sometimes he would guide them this way. So it didn't stop, but it was definitely very hard, and it was limited.
So the Imam is, sending out messages and so forth to these different cities, and he's got representatives or ambassadors, to help and lead over the Shia and so forth. These letters, were they not checked? If he's meeting someone, were they not speaking to each other in the presence of guards and so forth? So what I'm trying to get at is, was there a level of taqiyya? Was there like coded messages or something? How did it work?
Yeah, so that was a big challenge for them because, like I mentioned, sometimes khums and hadaya would come from Qum to Samarra. So once it happened that there was a caravan, camels loaded with khums and other things that would come to the Imam, were on their way from Qum to Samarra, Iraq, the Imam sent a message, stop and turn back. Come next year. Why? Because the Imam knew that if they come now, they would run into trouble, they would run into spies, they would run into Bani al-Abbas, they'd run into...
It would get confiscated.
They would get confiscated, they could get into trouble. And remember, the Imams also tried to save the lives of the Shia. Muhammad ibn Sharaf says, I was walking with Imam Ali al-Hadi alayhi salatu wassalam, and I was walking with him and the Imam was speaking to me and he said to me, you are the son of Sharaf, right? So the Imam says, this is your father. He says, yes, Yabna Rasulillah. And I was walking with him, I came to a crossroad and I wanted to ask the Imam a question. But he stopped me, he said, don't ask the question here. Not on the crossroad, not on the main road. Because of taqiyya. Because there's people there, there's spies. Markets there, there's spies there, there's a souk. So imagine that. They walk on the main road onto a crossroad, Imam says, now is not the time for questions. Imagine that taqiyya. Or somebody sending something, turn back, not now. Come back next year. Wow. We even find the time of his son, Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, once he's riding a horse and he's going past a crossroad or a busy, like a high street or a marketplace. One of the Shia sees him sitting. He says, I had thought about getting up and running to the Imam and embracing him, kissing his hands and his feet. The Imam from a distance did this. Taqiyya. Quiet, not now. Otherwise your own life could be in jeopardy. So yes, they did have taqiyya and they had to use coded language in the sense that they had to hide letters. There is an interesting story actually that one of the wukala, one of the Imams, I believe it was his son, al-Askari alayhi salam, he would hide letters. He was an oil seller, or you sell fragrances.
Okay, atar.
Al-atur, atar, yes. In these oil fragrant bottles, he would hide the letters in these bottles and close them, hide them and close them, put them in there and close them. And sometimes the Imam would give, a stack of sticks, wooden sticks to go and take it somewhere. Later on, it turns out there were letters hidden inside. So just imagine what the taqiyya was like, what the level of secrecy was like. But the guidance continued, but it continued in secrecy. It was confidential.
So we've got secrecy, we've got taqiyya and so forth. Very, very difficult and harsh times for the Imam. How does, the Imam still have, trust and tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the grand plan of things? And I mean, is this something for us to also learn from, that there are, hardships and so forth, and we must remain patient and steadfast and so forth?
So, interestingly, we say the villain was al-mutawakkil.
Yeah.
What does al-mutawakkil mean?
Wakil.
The one who relies upon Allah, the one who does tawakkul.
Wow.
And did you know that title actually belongs to Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam?
Oh, I didn't know that.
So some of the books narrate that this title belonged to the Holy Imam, but he prohibited people from using that because of mutawakkil.
So association and the urf was...
Because it was popular on the other side, and because of that, because of the hate the Shia had for that man, the Imam prohibited. But in reality, the Imam is mutawakkil, al-mutawakkil, the one who relies upon Allah. In fact, all of the titles of the leaders of the Khulafa wal Abbas belong to A'immah Ahlul Bayt. They belong to 12th Imam. Al-Mu'tasim, Mutawakkil, Wathiq, all these names, Wathiq, all these names which have positive meanings, all these names that al-Mahdi,
Yes.
all these al-Ma'ud, all these names have positive meanings which actually are titles of Imams of Ahlul Bayt. They took them to try to gain some legitimacy. So this title shows you that the Imam, of course, if Imam Salamullahi alayhi is to be, if you want, what can you say about him relying upon God? He's an Imam of Al Muhammad. His reliance upon Allah is the same reliance that Ali ibn Abi Talib had upon Allah. His reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same as that Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhima had upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is that? He was in prison. He's under house arrest. His house gets raided twice. In one of the nights when he's on the prayer reading Quran, he's dragged out of his house into the court of al-Mutawakkil, who offers him. He picks up a cup of alcohol that he's drinking and he gives it to the Imam.
Allah.
After all of that he went through, he would always be of the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for us. Never once do you find that the Imam Salamullah alayhi even ask his followers, even despite how difficult it was for the wukala, to stop representing me. No, got to be done. When he asked those people who were sending the hadaya and the khums from Qum, he says to them, next time when you send it, don't come with it, just send the caravan.
Yeah.
You guys don't come. And leave it to Allah. And the next year after that was sent, the year following that, those Shia from Qum went to visit the Holy Imam. In his house, they saw all of that khums that they sent.
MashaAllah.
Reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
One cannot do tabligh unless one relies on Allah.
Excellent.
An Imam is the prime example of reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're in prison, they say Subhanallah. They're in house arrest, they say Alhamdulillah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is under the dagger, he says, oh my Rabb, are you pleased with Hussein? Ali ibn Abi Talib gets struck in the masjid of Kufa, he says, Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba.
Yeah.
Yes, this is reliance, this is tawakkul ala Allah. How do we implement it? So you look at the lifestyle of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. The war that was imposed on him. You can say it was sort of an economic war.
Okay.
Because you could say it was a cold war. Yes? Because what did Mutawakkil do? And before Mutawakkil, from Mansur and those, second caliph of the Abbasids, make the Shia financially weak, hit the economy of the Shia, boycott them. Just like the Shia of Abi Talib.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Financially boycott them. Nobody do business with them. Nobody communicate with them. Nobody have relations with them. This is the idea. Everybody was, it's like sanctioning.
Yeah.
Countries sanction one another today. Right? You're at war with the country, you sanction them. They're at war with you, they sanction you.
Yeah.
The Imams and the Shia of Al Muhammad was sanctioned. Yet the faith and the Iman stayed at its peak.
Wow.
And look at today. We are the ones who are sanctioning and we are the ones who are sanctioned. The names of the Imams are more alive than ever. Where is Mutawakkil's name? Okay? So today, if you get sanctioned, if you get boycotted, if you feel down, if you feel alone, if you feel like things are tough, Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Askari, 12th Imam, the prime examples. Sabr, patience, tawakkul upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and just do your duty. That's what Imam alayhi salatu wasalam even did at that time. Throughout that difficult period, did the duty of the Imam stop?
No, of course not.
No. Only difference is it was less.
Yeah.
It was harder. But he still trained gems. You go to, have you been to Tehran?
No, not yet.
There is a ziyarah there of Shah Abdul Azim.
Okay.
Shah Abdul Azim. He's one of the companions and students of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, who's a ravi of many of the narrations.
Wow.
Fadl ibn Shazan, a rawi, author of books, student of the Imam. Yes, this is a big ziyarah for him in Ray, just outskirts of Tehran. This Shah Abdul Azim is praised by the Imam.
MashaAllah.
And so the Imam, even through that difficult time, they trained such students who would then go out and explain the gems and the aqidah of al-Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam.
MashaAllah, Sayyidina, thank you so much. But before we end the show, any final advice or anything you'd like to say to our viewers, please?
Yes. If I ask somebody from the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, a simple question, take a pen and paper and write a page on the life of Ali al-Hadi alayhi salam. How far would we get? How much do we really know of this oppressed Imam, Imam Ali al-Hadi? Can we write a page or two on his life? Do we know that much? And I think majority of us would not be able to write even 2 pages on the life of Ali al-Hadi, who lived 45 years or so. Which indicates the need to study his life, to give more importance to him, like we give to the other Imams before him, to really try to have a ma'rifah of the Holy Imam. And the only way, because a lot of brothers and sisters say we feel less connected with the latter Imams. You know why? Because we don't know enough about them. We don't spend hours on them. We don't study about them. We don't have enough lectures on them. We don't have enough programs on them. And so it's time, inshallah, that we make that change, to have more lectures, more programs, more majalis. And every individual makes that effort to pick up a book, read and study the life of Imam Ali al-Hadi al-Naqi, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi.
Thank you very much, Sayyidina. And thank you to all the viewers for joining us on this episode of The Valiant. Inshallah, we'll have a part 2 with the Sayyid, if he permits. And we'll be looking more into the life of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. Until then, carry on with the celebrations, enjoy yourselves. And inshallah, all your hajat and all your du'as are accepted in the name of Imam al-Hadi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.